Well, hello, hello. Welcome once again to our Blue Star Careers webinars. Thank you so much. Our webinars, of course, are intended to connect members to our job opportunities and partnerships, raising awareness of our current work, but also creating pathways for all Blue Star Careers members, Blue Star Families members in general. Let me double check to make sure that we have audio and that you can hear us. Perfect. And we are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, our digital community, as well as in our Utah chapter. So thank you so much. We have incredible guests today, and I hope that you can allow us to delightful and incite you with great purposeful discussion. Our goal today is to be able to create additional insights, but also just outside of the box thinking, because this month we're focusing on how mission work empowers you, but also can make a difference, collaborate with purposeful, and create lasting change in your career trajectory. Today, we continue to explore that particular topic and discussion by providing more awareness of how volunteering can lead to careers in the nonprofit sector. We have Marcie Valdez, who is our executive director of the Utah chapter. Welcome, Marcie. She is one of our current additions to our team at Blue Star Families. We also have Samantha Hagan-Lingad, who is the VP of Program at United Through Reading, and both of them combined have an incredible wealth of experience and insightful tips and how your current volunteer opportunities can translate into purposeful work. And that's really our goal, to be able to give you a little bit more direction, how to really leverage that experience and volunteer with a purpose. So without further ado, let's get started. Please tell us where you're watching. We love to be able to connect you. Share your location, where you are connected, where you're watching from. We love to be able to send you shout outs, but also post your questions. Post your questions. We'll have Marcie and Samantha respond to those towards the end of our webinar. So thank you very much for supporting. We look forward to your connection. Thank you. Well, hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you very much for those who are watching and supporting. We love to be able to get and send you shout outs. So please post your comments, your questions. We're going to get started right on and dive into our discussion. But I like to be able to also just welcome our guests. Thank you so much for supporting this discussion and of course, contributing through the conversation with your combined amazing work and leadership in nonprofits. So welcome, Marcie. Please introduce yourself, properly tell us a little bit more your military connection, your drive, but also your career trajectory. Enlighten us, please.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I'm so excited to be here with everybody today just to share a little bit of my passion for working in the nonprofit industry and any tips I can provide for your experience with volunteering, but also considering a career in nonprofit. As Laura said, my name is Marcie Valdez, and I'm currently the executive director for the Utah chapter of Blue Star Families. I've just been in this role for 2 months, but I am so honored to be working here. I do not have a direct military affiliation, but my father is a Vietnam veteran and was a career civilian at Hill Air Force Base. And so have a lot of love and pride for our Air Force and our military community. My career trajectory is one that I would never have imagined. When I first graduated from college with a degree in sociology, I didn't really know that working in nonprofits was an option. So I look back on that now and think about, had I known, I could have started sooner, but so lucky for the opportunity. I first started my career as a receptionist at the American Red Cross, which is also where I gained such love and appreciation for serving our military families and military community. Had the opportunity to work at the Red Cross for 10 years. Like I said, I started out as a receptionist, but within a year, I became the emergency services director. And when I ended my career there, I was the financial development director. all skills that I didn't know that I had. I didn't know I was going to be a great fundraiser and grant writer and program manager. And I didn't know I was going to fall in love with working with volunteers. So I'll always be grateful for that first experience at the American Red Cross, where, you know, as the American Red Cross is primarily a volunteer-led organization, it really just inspired me in so many ways. Also had the privilege of serving as the director of Catholic Community Services in Northern Utah, one of the largest food pantries in Utah. Worked there for 7 years, and then I was a professional fundraiser serving as the foundation director at Davis Technical College. Also had the opportunity to work at United Way with some education programs before landing here at Blue Star Families. So thank you. It's been a remarkable journey.
Absolutely. Indeed, it has. Wow, what an incredible trajectory. And we love that you love fundraising, because that's not an easy path through the nonprofit sort of a journey to really to master, and also to find, to identify whether or not sometimes you can be great at or good at. Sometimes we just go through nonprofit and we're like, oh, I want to help people, but you don't know how. This is one of those areas that simply, definitely it's an essential to this type of work. So thank you, Marcie. Samantha, welcome. Thank you very much. Let us know, please introduce yourselves, your military connection, your journey, career pathway, anything you feel, to share with our community.
Sure. So I'm Samantha Hagan-Lingad. I'm the VP of Programs for United Through Reading. Kind of similar to Marcie, I fell into nonprofits. It wasn't my intended career path when I was in college either. I graduated with a degree in government and international politics and thought I would, be ruling from Capitol Hill or something like that, and then fell quickly out of love with politics. And fortunately had a friend in college who had gotten a position at a small local nonprofit and said, hey, very similar to Marcie, we need a receptionist. Do you want a paycheck? And that was kind of, I was like, yes, I very much do. And that was my entree into nonprofit work, and I absolutely fell in love with it. That organization, we did fundraising for local historical sites. And then a few years after beginning there, I progressed into a little bit of development work. Development work was not my love as it is for Marcie. I am much more of a programmatic person. And I am also the daughter of two sailors. I was one of the early dual military families I grew up in, and a position became available at the USO, a well-known military service organization, and I jumped at it. And that really kickstarted my work in the military service organization space, which I've been doing for quite a number of years now. That job didn't lead me to meet my husband, but I married a sailor as well. And so then PCS'd a few times around the country, worked at other USO organizations, and then was really fortunate through some connections I had made with earlier work to get a job at United Through Reading, where I have been for the last 11 years. And the mission is one that's very close to my heart, having grown up in the military and been through countless deployments with one or both parents gone at the same time. I missed story time, and that's what we do at United Through Reading. We make sure that military families can stay connected through story time. And I have a couple little slides where I'll talk about how we do that and how you can get involved in that mission. But I fell in love with the mission, and one of the great things about United Through Reading is we are a virtual workforce, and have been since, I like to say, since before COVID made it cool. And so I've been able to do multiple PCSs with my spouse all around the country, and continue to serve United Through Reading and the families that we serve. So it's been wonderful, and a great career to fall into for sure.
Wonderful. And I think from there we can summarize your aha moment. I think when you mentioned, you had some story time missings. Perhaps that is your what drove you um, to unite with United to Reading in your
Absolutely.
choice of employment in the most recent times. Would you say that?
No, absolutely. I will often say that my father was the storyteller in our family. He would read books to us, and when he was deployed, it was something my sisters and I desperately missed, and I wish when I was a little one that we had United Through Reading, and I am just honored to be able to pay it forward to this generation of military kids and make sure that they can stay connected with their loved ones.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. And what about you, Miss Marcie? You recently, of course, congratulations. You are our first, yeah, you are our first floor leader of our Utah chapter. You recently joined our community. But tell us a little bit more about your aha moment. What led you to Blue Star Families to this chapter, and why was this such a good fit for you?
Yeah, I think again, my love for serving our military community came from those experiences I had at the American Red Cross. And, just the love of being involved in the nonprofit world where, there's so many opportunities to change the lives of people in the community that also, through giving at a nonprofit or working at a nonprofit also changes your life. Um, Working at the United Way, I had the opportunity to serve as an honorary commander with Hill Air Force Base, and it just kind of reintroduced me to the sacrifices that our military families make, and how much joy there is in serving those who serve. And um, so, I didn't know about Blue Star Families until a few months ago, but as soon as I heard the mission, I knew that this was the place that I belonged. And, I've had the opportunity to make a lot of wonderful relationships over the years. And I know the power of community, and recognizing the needs that our military families face and being able to connect the community to help meet some of those needs. I'm just really excited for the opportunities. Utah is such a giving, generous community, but it can be difficult for new families to get connected. And I just look forward to bridging that gap and creating a lot of synergy and connections for people here in Utah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you for honoring both of you with your time and donating your time to carry on this discussion, which we're going to get in just a little bit, team. So if you're watching, if you're just recently joining us, we are streaming. Thank you, Lily. We are streaming on multiple social networks throughout our digital platforms on in Blue Star Families. So please post your comments, tell us where you're watching, but also post your comments about nonprofit work and how your intent could lead or could help you navigate to secure a long-time career opportunity, like all of us have had that privilege of being able to work in this great industry and this great opportunity to support military families. We are going to give Samantha a little bit of time for her to just give us a little bit more about what United to Reading is reading. I'm sorry, is reading. Yes, is
We are
doing.
reading.
You are reading, absolutely, and what you are also doing in general. So please educate us a little bit more about the great work that you do. And then right after Samantha, we'll go with Miss Marcie as well and get a little bit of Utah shout out, in plans and activities and how you as a member can get involved. And then we'll dive into a more intentional discussion. So Samantha, take it over,
Absolutely.
please.
Thank you. So kind of covered all this, but yeah, I grew up in a military family and married a sailor, and so here I am traveling all around the country with him every few years, and really just honored to be able to continue my career through all of those transitions and changes with an amazing organization like United Through Reading. So I'll talk a little bit about what it is that we do at United Through Reading and how you can get involved. So United Through Reading, we were founded back in 1989 in San Diego, where our founder was literally pulling sailors and Marines off of gangways as they were boarding a ship to deploy so that she could put them in front of a camera, put a book in their hand, and have them record stories for the children that they were about to leave behind. Here we are almost 36 years later, and our mission has pretty much stayed the same, although technology has most definitely changed. We're not using those big old VHS tapes, if you remember those. those anymore. But what we do is make sure that our service members are still able to stay connected with the loved ones in their lives through shared story time. So our mission at United Through Reading is to strengthen military families' literacy, emotional bonds, and well-being through the power of reading together at every age. And this is the important thing, no matter the distance. So we want to make sure that every military family can read together no matter what. Doesn't matter if they're in the same room, they're sitting on the couch, they're cozy up together in bed, or if their service member is 12 time zones away, we want to make sure that they are able to stay connected through story time. So we do that through 3 different ways. What I've started calling our United Through Reading programmatic trilogy, because we do love a good literary pun at United Through Reading. So our trilogy are book distributions, literacy resource distributions, and story time recordings. So book distributions, pretty self-explanatory, but last year we distributed over 80,000 books directly to military families, some through our partnerships with amazing organizations like Blue Star Families, some directly to military commands, and some directly to military families. So different pathways to get books into the hands of the families that need them the most. And then we also do literacy resource distribution. These are guides for the parent or caregiver at home to help them understand the why. So why reading together every day is so important, how to keep reading together every day fun. There's a lot of talk these days about reading scores and reading levels and how kids are falling behind. And the best way to fight against that, the best way to make sure that your kids are succeeding in school is to literally take 15 minutes a day to read with them. So we provide that sort of information so parents and caregivers have easy access to that information, and there's no barriers for them to understand how important reading together every day is. And then finally, our flagship program at United Through Reading is our Storytime recordings. So this is where we started, and this is where we continue to be in all 36 years of our history. We make sure that service members and veterans are able to sit in front of a device and leave a Storytime recording for their loved ones. Important things to note about United Through Reading is we are not deployment specific. So you do not need to be in the middle of a deployment or even getting ready for a deployment to participate. You can make these Storytime recordings anytime you want. They're great if your loved one needs to travel for whatever reason, or you just need 10 minutes and somebody needs to sit in front of the kiddo and read a book. It's wonderful. We provide books for kids 0 to 18. So the program grows with the child. We encourage families to start really in utero before the child is even born. You can get started, hit the ground running, as it were, and then continue your journey with United Through Reading all the way up into their teenage years. It's also not dependent on where you are together. So again, you can make these recordings anytime, doesn't matter deployment. It also is not dependent on what your family relationship is. So obviously we have a lot of moms and dads that are using United Through Reading to stay connected, but my husband and I, we don't have kids of our own. We use the program to stay connected with our nieces and nephews who are all over the country. So if you have a service member or are a veteran who is not a parent, but is an aunt, an uncle, a godparent, a grandparent, a mentor, an older sibling, any of those folks are welcome and encouraged to use United Through Reading to stay connected with them. So that's just a really quick snapshot of the hows and the who's. And then I wanted to touch on how you can get involved with United Through Reading. Volunteers are the lifeblood of our organization. So this is a really quick smattering of just a few photos of our volunteers out in the field. We have lots and lots of volunteer opportunities. One of my favorites is in the bottom right-hand corner there. We had a group of Girl Scouts who attended an event for us and were handing books out to kids their own age. So it's a really cool way to get involved in your community. If you are interested in literacy, if you are interested in making sure that kids have access to books. It's a great organization to, I know I'm tooting my own horn, but it's a great organization to get involved with. And we have various different ways that you can volunteer. Some of those opportunities are virtual. You can do it right from your own home. You don't even have to, go outside if you don't want to. But then also provide opportunities where you can get out into the community and talk to your neighbors and get them involved in United Through Reading as well.
Wonderful. I love that. I love the fact that you also gave options of volunteering virtually, but also and get out and being in person. So we're definitely going to pick your insights a little bit more farther in just a little bit about how the volunteer programs or the volunteer opportunities that you are creating through United to Reading can also translate to an actual paid job from your experience, but you see some of those volunteers who have joined United Through Reading. So thank you so much for that. Now, I also want to give right now a portion for our Utah chapter, our represent. Executive director to give us a little bit also her high priorities. Remember, we are new, just recently added into Utah. Utah chapter is not new, but I know Marcie is recently joining the community as leading with her own intent and her own vision. So we'll definitely want to find out more a little bit, what are her priorities? How can we help you? What are some of those volunteer opportunities, but also what are some of that intent that you have going on for Utah? And so right now you're looking at our Utah chapter page in our community where can find a little bit more how to connect in general with Utah Life. So Ms. Marcie, please take it over and tell us a little bit more about you and your priorities that involve or your community in Utah.
Oh, thank you, Laura. As I was listening to Samantha, what an amazing program you provide for the community. So thank you for the work that you do. I think there's so much opportunity through volunteerism. If you're new to a community, connect with a local nonprofit where you can volunteer. It's such a great way to meet people, to get engaged in your community, find ways to give back, and also learn more about the resources that are available to you. So, if you're not in a position where maybe you want to jump right into a paid position with a nonprofit, please consider volunteering. Wherever you're stationed across the nation, there's a nonprofit that needs you, that needs your passion, that needs your skills. And so many of the skills are transferable across every nonprofit organization. Here in Utah, the Blue Star Families chapter started about 5 years ago. Due to some staffing challenges, we were inactive most of 2024. And so Madeline McDonald is our program director. And right now it's a 2-person team, and we're working hard to rebuild our chapter. So we really do need some passionate volunteers to join us. We've recruited a few volunteers. We have a new volunteer with us who's helping with social media. We have a couple of volunteers who have agreed to help us with events, but we have got to build our volunteer workforce and able to be successful in helping meet the needs of our military families across the state. We have incredible opportunities in programs like careers, caregivers, welcome activities, helping us plan welcome week activities, and just finding ways to increase access to resources and help build community with our military families. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have, some fun events that we're looking forward to this year. Takes a lot of hands to make things happen at a nonprofit. And so, like Samantha said, volunteers are the lifeblood of so many organizations. And that's especially true with Blue Star Families. So, if you're interested in getting connected, the best thing you can do is join us on the neighborhood, but also feel free to reach out directly to me at my email, which you can find on the website, mvaldez@bluestarfam.org. Would love to hear what your interests are. And, I think one of the things I love to do is to find a volunteer and figure out what your needs, what your passions, what are the skills you're hoping to build, and then match you to that perfect volunteer opportunity that helps you build those skills and experience for when you do want to re-enter the workforce. So let's connect, let's find a great fit for you and help you build your skills and experience through volunteerism.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marcie. And thank you, Samantha, of course, for sharing a little bit more about your mission, your drive, your intentional workplace where you are driving a little bit more community, but also infusing great initiatives to our community. And just want to remind our team, Laurel and then Romin as well, those who are, Lily, thank you so much, who are watching on the different channels. Please post your questions, share your comments. What volunteer or nonprofit work looks like for you, or where do you want to see yourself, because we're about to dive in right now and really get into the insights from these incredible professionals who have very much a long trajectory of insightful tips, and really find out a little bit more what those nonprofit opportunities could look like outside of paid work. So and Samantha, in your experience, given that you do have a great wealth of volunteer opportunities year round, and you describe some of those, for someone who is new to the military, new spouse, maybe they haven't quite built their identity yet within our community, what are some of those nonprofit opportunities outside of paid work that you will suggest if you were to look back at your younger self, new to the military? What would you, encourage to? It could be through United to Reading, but also any other pathways that you would consider.
Absolutely. I think I would echo what Marcie said just a few minutes ago. It's a wonderful volunteering in general is a wonderful way to get involved in your community. And one of the great things about the military community on whole is that there are so many ways to get involved. Obviously, I'm going to say United Through Reading because we love our volunteers. We would love to have you as a United Through Reading volunteer represent United Through Reading at your local level, at a command event, at a fall festival on your installation, whatever that might be. But there are so many other opportunities as well to get involved. A lot of the relief societies, the branch specific relief societies, have opportunities where you can go and volunteer to help someone budget for a new baby that's coming, or you can go to sell things at a thrift shop that funds a scholarship fund. And those are wonderful ways. You are out in the community, you are meeting people in your new community. And those are just like such small examples of the various different ways that you can get involved. I would say my biggest tip to my younger self would be research. What is it that you are passionate about? What connects with you from the perspective of your new community? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be military related. Maybe your passion is making sure that dogs and cats get adopted. Go to your local shelter and start volunteering. It's hard to move every few years and feel instantly connected to your new community, and getting out there and serving others is a great way to do that. And I think, Marcie and Laura would probably back me up when I say this. You'd be hard pressed to find a nonprofit who would turn away a ready and willing volunteer to dive in. And they will take an hour of your time. They will take 10 hours of your time. Volunteers make us run, truly from go. There's never enough resources in the nonprofit world, just by virtue of who we are and what we do. So having some fantastic volunteers that want to help make the mission happen, you're going to find your fit really quickly. And you're also going to find folks that are aligned with what you find important, and that'll help you build your community really quickly.
Wonderful. Great advice. Thank you so much for that insight, and for that, food for thought to our younger selves. Thank you so much. Now, Ms. Marcie, in your experience with that, seed that Samantha just planted, how do you find the right fit that is good for you in your experience through your involvement through the USO? What have been some of those best practices, do's and don'ts? And the reason I ask this is because sometimes I get a lot of members from a community who now are ready to transition to a job, and they are still invested in volunteering, but volunteering without a specific purpose, or they're investing volunteerism too much. How do you balance that a little bit to understand that is the good fit for you in your experience?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I think it's just a matter of really getting to know um, for the employees at the nonprofit to really take the time to get to know the volunteers, but also for the volunteers to get to know the nonprofit, and to just be aware of all the opportunities that exist in the community. I think balance is really important. Whether you have an hour to give or 40 hours to give, there is an opportunity for everybody. And there's also opportunities. The great thing about nonprofits too is that flexibility with hours. There's opportunities during the day and often, evenings and weekends. If you do have, a full-time job, that you're working some volunteer hours in between, and that opportunity to do volunteerism virtually as well. I wanted to give a little plug for the AmeriCorps program. A lot of people are not familiar with AmeriCorps, but AmeriCorps is a great way to serve your community while also earning a living stipend and the opportunity to earn an education award, and can really kind of be another way to bridge from going from a volunteer to a paid position with a nonprofit. And again, just like with volunteering at a nonprofit, those opportunities through AmeriCorps can provide a lot of flexibility with hours. Some of the barriers that military families, military spouses face in seeking employment, volunteerism and programs like AmeriCorps can often provide a great alternative. And I think volunteerism to nonprofits, it's a safe place to just experiment. Maybe you don't know that, what you love or what your passion is, but just get in there and try something. And if you start volunteering somewhere and you feel like it's not the right fit, have that conversation with the employees and see if there's another opportunity, or ask them about other community resources where it might be a better fit for you. So I think that's the other thing is, the people who work in nonprofits and the volunteers, you'll not find a group of more caring, compassionate people who really just want to support each other, support community, and provide mentorship opportunities. So nonprofits are just a great, safe place to grow and expand your wings in new ways.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that insight, and thank you for the plug for AmeriCorps. I did share it in the comments, so if you have, if you're looking and you look through our comments, please review those. Those of you who are watching us live, or if you watch the replay, also please tell us that you watch the replay so we can come back and support you locally. Whatever nonprofit might look like for you, we'll have those resources for you in the neighborhood, or we can connect with you one-on-one. So thank you for watching all the way. We'll go also in a little bit to share a little bit more shout outs through the different members who are watching in various locations across the US. But right now, I want to go back to the opportunities and then put Samantha on the spot, especially because United to Read, as you mentioned, most of the work is done through a lot of great volunteer employment. But with volunteerism, a lot of times, we are sort of a pitch this tagline or this opportunity that it will lead to employment, or this is how you will solidify your employment. But do volunteer opportunities often lead to actual employment opportunities? What has been your experience, or you have observed out in, through your career trajectory?
Sure, that's a great question. And I can tell you at United Through Reading, we have a number of employees who started as United Through Reading volunteers. And it's a great way to get your foot in the door through various different ways. If it's an organization that is that you are very interested in working for, it's kind of to reiterate what Marcie said. It's a great way to get to know the culture. Is that a place that you would see yourself working, part-time or full-time, on a long-term basis, not just once a week or once a month? Is that a place that you want to be? It's also a great way to build a reputation. So if you are a fantastic volunteer and a job opportunity pops up, you can pretty well bet your bottom dollar that if you are an involved volunteer who has proven themselves to be reliable, to show up, to convey the message of the mission and execute the mission, that you are quite a viable option as an employee as well for that open position. So yes, most definitely, I think volunteering can definitely lead to employment. But beyond employment in the place that you are volunteering, I would also encourage folks to not write off your volunteer experience as something that's not important. I often will be talking to military spouses who have applied for jobs at United Through Reading, and there are job gaps because they've PCS'd, they've taken time off to raise a family, whatever it might be. And you have the conversations with those folks and you say like, well, what have you done the last few years? I love to see when military spouses in particular outline the volunteer experience that is relevant to the position that they are applying for. I don't want to have to pull it out of you. I want to know that you've been a key spouse or an ombudsman. I want to know that you are the FRG president and you executed this amazing welcome home event on a shoestring budget. These are skills that are so applicable to the nonprofit world. So don't cut yourself off at the knees by not shouting those skills from the rooftop and using your volunteer experience as a way to leverage the conveyance of how awesome you are. So make sure that you are including every single one of those volunteer opportunities when you are applying for jobs. Make sure they're on your resume. All of those are so valuable to know for an employer about you because it says so much about you and your work ethic and how much you care about the mission, regardless if it's an organization that you are applying for the job for. Don't undervalue your volunteer experience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that great insight. And then with that in mind, Ms. Marcie, let me now pick from your experience. How do I find, there's so many great organizations, there's so many great pathways through nonprofit. I think people, when they think of nonprofit work, for most part, we just, I want to help, I want to help this demographic. I want to help this community. But how do you locate your niche? How do you master your niche? How to become, a master guru of your specific niche within a nonprofit? In your experience, what worked for you or those around you that you led through the nonprofit world?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Again, as I started working in the nonprofit world, I never imagined that I would become a fundraiser, but, I think oftentimes people that I worked with saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and just provided so much encouragement and support for me to step into new positions, to try new things. And, you're just surrounded by a spirit of hope and community, and that's so empowering. I was scared to death every time I took on a new opportunity, but I quickly found that I was surrounded by people who wanted to see me succeed and were willing to step in and help me be successful. And so, I think that's part of it. Is just being willing to try and accept that encouragement and support from people around you. I love what Samantha was saying. Volunteerism can really help fill those gaps in employment. And when you're involved with a nonprofit, just building that relationship and ask if the staff, whether it's the executive director or the person that was your direct supervisor as a volunteer, if you can list them as a reference on your resume. I've always, really encouraged volunteers that I've worked with as they've been, looking to then engage with employment, just tell them, I'm happy to serve as a reference for you, and be able to speak to the skills and the experience and the difference that they made while working as a volunteer. And, there's a lot of places you can go to find volunteer opportunities. If you're looking for employment opportunities, there's usually a local nonprofit association in every state. I know here in Utah, the Utah Nonprofit Association has an amazing job board, and they list both paid and volunteer positions. And then here in Utah, we also have Just Serve Utah, where you can find different volunteer opportunities. Through 211, you can also find volunteer opportunities. And, kind of like we talked about before, everywhere you go, there's a food pantry, there's a domestic violence shelter, there's homeless and housing programs. And so, maybe just kind of look for that local food pantry and start there. Or, if you're interested in volunteering within the military, working with your military family readiness center to find those great opportunities and connections.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your thoughts, and thank you for that. I'm going to take now, drive a little bit more attention to our comments. We have a great interactive community today, and so I want to be able to take a few moments before we wrap up our segment in just a few minutes to send shout out. So thank you, Terry, all the way in Atlanta. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for Sierra, all the way in North Carolina. Thank you for our colleagues out there. And I need to, yep, oh, Marcie, congratulations. Kayla says hello. Yay, Marcie, welcome. Such a great leader. We have also some great friends all the way on Rosabel Bernal. Thank you so much. We have obviously Lily loves United Through Reading. Thank you for everything that you do, Samantha. We have some shout outs here. We have also Utah as well, another great hello. So thank you very much. We have DC Metro. Thank you for watching and supporting. Monica, ensure that you tag your community to let them know about opportunities. Thank you, Laura, for watching all the way in Jacksonville in Florida. And thank you for our colleagues at International on LinkedIn. Thank you, Romin, for supporting. Thank you for being a great ally. Also, Michigan. We have Michigan across. So from coast to coast, we are excited to support our community members. I do have a question here from one of our members on LinkedIn. Says, can you speak the success stories of volunteers becoming full staff members? So any of you take this question and then just speak a little bit of a just short success story in your previous life or current life that you have, you know, see yourself come to a reality.
I mean, I can say, like I mentioned, we have a number of staff at United Through Reading who started as volunteers, and they are phenomenal staff members because the passion is there, right? If you're coming in as a volunteer, the passion is there. So you can be trained to do anything. You cannot be trained to have passion. So our volunteers that come in and become employees are just like all of our employees are just some of the best employees that we could possibly have. And yeah, we would not be the same organization without those folks who come in as volunteers.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then thank you so much for that. And then we have this comment also from Laura. She's former military spouse, but also family readiness support assistant, warrior transition, all the great hats that probably a military spouse wears throughout her military life. She recently relocated to Jacksonville and is looking for volunteer experience. So what would be your advice, Marcie, for someone who just really made it to the community? They're brand new, they're relocating, they're trying to find their forever, happily ever after home. What would be a great way to engage in local volunteerism with the intent, of course, to secure a job?
Well, I know we have a great chapter in Jacksonville, Florida, who could probably use some volunteers. So I would suggest to reach out to Blue Star Families in Jacksonville. And they can also help connect you to other nonprofit organizations that they're working with as well. If you don't find the right fit with Blue Star Families. And similar to United Through Reading, in talking to a lot of my coworkers at Blue Star Families, a lot of our staff got their start as a volunteer. I can also speak to the fact that, as a hiring manager at several nonprofits, I loved when we had the opportunity to hire a volunteer, and would often seek out volunteers and encourage them to apply for positions when we had open positions, because, you do see that passion and that commitment come through committed volunteers. And it's a great recruitment strategy. Why not hire someone cares so much about the work that you do? So I've seen a lot of success with that. I've also hired a lot of people who have come into organizations I've worked at through internships and fellowships through their local colleges. And so great pipeline there. Did I answer that
Awesome.
question, Laura?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
in your local community, I know that you are Utah all hands on. What are some of those great, just three top sort of communities where you can identify additional support besides, of course, a Utah chapter? Individuals can get involved with maybe apprenticeships, internships, any of those great opportunities that also lead to career trajectory.
Yeah, we have a strong apprenticeship program here in Utah and what's called a returnship program, helping spouses re-engage with the workforce. And some really incredible programs through our local universities and technical colleges. So there's short-term training programs that lead to that apprenticeship program. So I would definitely, connect with local technical colleges and Weber State University, Utah State University about some of those short-term training programs and apprenticeship programs. Some really cool opportunities here in Utah. We have a workforce shortage in Utah, and I think a workforce shortage in nonprofits across the United States. So, again, don't discount the amazing opportunity to work at a nonprofit. I do think that, people just often aren't aware that there's some great career opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we're getting ready to wrap up, but I do want to give just a couple of seconds more of shout outs to members who are currently watching. So thank you, Tiffany, Hannah, Mark, once again, Monica, and to Deanna. Thank you very much for supporting our spouse first and virtual community out here, trying to come up with that. And then we also, of course, have our LinkedIn group, and that has been showing up on the comments. So thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Lily, Romaine. Thank you, everyone who's watching, Laurel as well, and on LinkedIn. We're getting ready to wrap up, and so we're going to do our last closing notes, best practices tips. I'm going to put Marcie back on the spot and just ask you in general, what's your call to action? If we, after all this, we joined this webinar, the last 30 seconds of it, what would be your call to action to someone watching and saying, how can we support you in your community better?
Yeah, find a way to connect, find a way to give. Everybody has something to contribute, and again, whether it's an hour, whether it's 10 hours, whether it's 40 hours, your passion, your skills are needed. You can make a big difference in your community. And I think too, I've heard this so many times from volunteers. Often you get back more than you give. And it really is a great way to change your life and to just open the door to new possibilities and new connections.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. And same to you, Samantha. What is your call to action? How can our community help you and help your role, your career pathway, personally or professionally at United to Reading, or just in general with you?
Sure. So I would encourage everyone to visit our website, and if you are looking for, if our mission resonates with you and you're looking for volunteer opportunities, utr.org/volunteers has a list of all the various ways that you can volunteer with United Through Reading. As I said, some of those are virtual, some of those are out in your community. So it's really to go back to a literary pun, it's a choose your own adventure story. So you can pick what works for you, and certainly don't have to pick one lane. You can pick multiple lanes and help members of the military community, maybe your local military community, be able to stay connected with their loved ones through shared story time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. And of course, my call to action for members will be to please join. When in doubt, just join our Blue Star Careers community in the neighborhood, where we're going to capture all the links, everything that you need to know, how to get a hold of Samantha, how to connect with the Utah chapter. Plus, Utah has its own community in the neighborhood as well. So if you are part of this community, you're watching the stream on their page, you can come to this digital platform. It's outside of social networks, so it's fully very credible and very safe space. You can connect with with the UTech community as well, other members, but also identify more ways to support your local community in whatever that looks like, but always volunteer with a purpose. Be mindful of yourself, take care of yourself, spend the time that is needed volunteering with intent, but also with the intent that you are going to progress this into a paid career opportunity. And if you need that, that's what we're here for. Blue Star Careers is here to lead you to those paid career opportunities and make those introductions when available. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Continue to post your comments, your questions. We'll come back and ensure that you all are driven or taking or routed to where you need to go. So thank you very much for supporting today.